They don't hate you. They hate the fact that the universe picked you and not them. That's the part they'll never say out loud. They want to be close to you, not because they love you, because they want to figure you out. But chosen ones aren't puzzles to be solved. You're not a trend. You're not a phase. You're a walking disruption to everything fake, forced, and fragile. And when you show up, the mask slips off everyone pretending. They all want you, your energy, your insight, your spirit. But the truth? Most couldn't carry your weight for a day without folding. They want your shine, but not your storms. They admire your strength, but hate that you didn't need them to build it. And when they realize they can't control or define you, they do the next best thing. Try to discredit you, but it never works, because real light doesn't need permission to shine. If you're feeling this message, pause right now, hit the like button and subscribe. Help this reach another chosen one who needs this word. Every time you do, it sends a signal through the noise that we're rising and the universe is moving through us. This isn't just content, this is calling. Let's be clear, you weren't picked because you were perfect. You were picked because you could take hits and keep walking. You could be misunderstood and still show love. You could lose everything and still rise like nothing touched you. That's what makes you different. That's why they all want a piece of you, but still can't handle the whole. And no, you're not for everyone. You were never meant to be. The universe doesn't choose people who play it safe. It chooses people who can walk through fire and come out gold. People who can sit in silence and still hear the mission. People who can stand alone and not break. And when you're chosen, even your silence speaks volumes. Even your stillness disturbs the ones who built their lives on noise. They can't figure out why your name is in rooms you've never entered, why blessings chase you down, why things fall apart for them when they try to copy your steps. But it's simple. The universe backs what it builds. And when you're chosen, it's not about what you have, it's about what you carry. You carry presence, pressure, purpose, and that kind of energy will always come with resistance. You weren't sent here to be liked. You were sent to shift. You are not entertainment. You are a reminder, a warning, a wake-up call. You walk in the room and without trying, you trigger hidden guilt, buried jealousy, and deep insecurity. Not because you're loud, but because your light exposes what they tried to hide. So no, don't shrink, don't soften, don't play small to make others feel safe. The universe didn't choose you to blend in. It chose you to break patterns, challenge lies, and walk roads others fear to step on. They all want you, until they realize you come with a truth they can't fake and a power they can't own. You're not for everyone, and that's not your burden, that's your protection. Some people were never meant to get you. They were meant to see you and know that greatness walked by. That's why they talk. That's why they watch. That's why no matter what they do, they can't forget you. Because chosen ones don't just exist. They leave an echo. If this message has stirred something deep inside you, that's no accident. It means you're not just watching, you're remembering. The truth is, chosen ones don't stumble across messages like this. You're summoned to them. So, before we go further, drop the number 77 in the comments to confirm you feel it too. That signal lets the universe know you're awake, alert, and ready for what's coming. This isn't just a video, it's a moment of alignment. And if you really are who you think you are, you won't want to miss a word. Now let's go deeper. Stay sharp, stay present. Let's begin. Number 1, you're the storm in their fake forecast, and that's why they can't stand you. They didn't betray you because you were weak. They betrayed you because your strength reminded them they had none. Let that sit with you, not in pain, but in power. You didn't lose people, you lost the illusions they were hiding behind. And when the universe chooses someone, it often starts by stripping away every fake connection and empty disguise, so the chosen can rise unchained. Chosen ones, you terrify them, not because of what you do, but because of what you reflect. You're a walking mirror, and when they look at you, they don't see you. They see every lie they ever told themselves. You don't speak their language of people-pleasing and survival. You speak truth. You carry the weight of clarity, and it crushes every fake version of themselves they spent years building. That's why they try to dim you, mock you, push you out. Because your presence does what their entire life can't. It reveals reality. You ever wonder why you've been judged so harshly by people who barely even know you? Why they try to assassinate your character without ever confronting you directly? It's because cowards don't confront, they conspire. They sit in rooms built on insecurity, drawing blueprints to bury someone who's already flying above their reach. But the joke's on them. The more they talk, the more the universe showcases you. The more they plot, the faster the tables turn. Because here's what they don't understand. When the universe chooses someone, it moves with them. It clears paths. It burns bridges that were never meant to be crossed. It delays what would have destroyed you and delivers what was meant only for you. So when they fight you, they're not just coming for a person, they're trying to wrestle a system they don't even see. And systems don't fold under pressure. They respond. They thought you were easy prey because you were quiet, humble, and didn't fight back the way they do. But what they didn't realize is that the universe doesn't rush chosen ones. It prepares them. And while they were out chasing clout, you were being refined in silence. While they were playing the game, you were learning how to rewrite the rules. And now they feel the shift. Now they see the glow. And now it's too late. Let's be honest, some of you have doubted yourselves. You've looked around and wondered, why am I always the outsider? Why do I feel so alone? Let me be blunt. Stop it. You're not alone. You were separated, set apart. Not because you're broken, but because you're built different. Chosen ones don't walk the crowded path. They take the route that's harder, quieter, and often crueler. Not because they enjoy pain, but because their calling demands depth. And shallow waters don't produce deep power. Every time you silence yourself to fit in, you rob the world of what only you carry. Every time you question your value because others can't see it, you give blind people the right to judge your vision. Stop doing that. You're not here to be understood by everyone. You're here to be remembered by those meant to awaken. And if you still think you're just going through a rough patch, hear this. You're not breaking down. You're breaking out. You're not being punished. You're being positioned. And the same ones who laughed when you struggled will one day lie about how they always believed in you. They want your shine without your scars. They want your peace without your pain. They want your energy without your effort. But what they don't realize is, chosen ones aren't made in comfort. They're forged in fire. And that fire, it never burns them, it builds them. So next time they whisper about you behind closed doors, let them. Every whisper is proof that your presence still lingers. You were never made for background roles. You were cast to shift the entire atmosphere. That's why you can't be ignored. That's why even your silence speaks volumes. Let them fear you, let them resent you, let them twist their tongues trying to understand you, because every attempt to tear you down will only remind them of how untouchable you really are. You were chosen, and not everyone is meant to like that. They all want you, but they'll never have you, because you were never sent to be kept. You were sent to shake, to break, to become. Number 2. You're too real for their manufactured world, and that's why they self-destruct around you. You didn't hurt them, you exposed them, and they've been bleeding ever since. They circle you like moths to a flame, fascinated, drawn in by your presence. They chase your light like it's something they can touch, bottle up, or wear like a borrowed coat. But then, the moment they get too close, they scream like you burned them. No, you didn't burn them. You didn't lift a finger. What burned them was the truth of what you are and what they're not. You see, in a world obsessed with filters, you're the raw, unedited truth. And truth, real truth, is violence to the fake. You represent everything they pretend to be, and when someone's identity is built on lies, your authenticity feels like an attack. You're not for everyone. You were never supposed to be. You weren't built to blend in with broken systems, clingy codependents, or empty crowds. You were designed to disrupt, to shift frequencies, to be the living reminder that real doesn't need to scream to shake the room. And that's what they hate, because they can't copy what you carry. They'll try, of course. They'll mimic your words, your style, your rhythm. They'll bite your ideas, echo your language, and wear your blueprint like a costume. But when they put it on, it falls flat. Why? Because you didn't download this power. You survived for it. You bled for it. You earned it in the silence, in the shadows, in the seasons no one clapped for. And that kind of real can't be faked, borrowed, or sold. You ever wonder why people study you from the sidelines, then act cold when you walk by? Why people you helped, loved, or inspired suddenly grow quiet the moment you shine a little brighter? It's not that they don't see your value, it's that they do. And it reminds them of what they gave up on, the goals they dropped, the healing they avoided, the courage they never dared to use. And now you walk into the room carrying everything they were too scared to reach for. That's why they talk. That's why they project. That's why they try to twist your story, to make you look smaller, easier to dismiss, easier to control. But here's the twist. You never needed their permission, their validation, or their applause, because you weren't placed, you were planted, and what's planted by the universe doesn't need a platform to grow. It breaks through concrete. It finds light in the darkest corners. It thrives where nothing should. They hate the fact that you're not chasing anyone, that you don't beg for seats at tables built on ego, that you're not playing the game, because you are the shift. And their small minds can't comprehend how you can walk with so much power and still be humble. They mistake your silence for weakness. They see your isolation as failure, but the universe was never hiding you. It was protecting you. They think you lost, but really you were just being preserved. So stop second-guessing why you don't fit. You were never meant to blend into a crowd that fears originality. You're not for the masses, you're for the movement, and not everyone is qualified to witness your rise. Chosen ones, listen closely. You are not too much. You are the exact amount required to break generational patterns and birth new legacies. You don't need to soften for people who refuse to grow. You don't need to explain your soul to those committed to misunderstanding it. Your authenticity makes them uncomfortable because it forces them to meet themselves in the mirror. And most people would rather attack the mirror than confront the reflection. Here's a hard truth. They loved you when they thought you were manageable. They cheered for you when they thought they could contain you. But the moment you stopped playing small, when your growth started making them feel inadequate, that's when the switch flipped. Suddenly, you were arrogant, different, too deep. No, you just evolved past the version of yourself they had power over, and they hate that they can't follow you into the next level, because here's the part they never saw coming. When you're chosen, the universe rearranges everything to support your rise. People fall off, opportunities shift. doors that once slammed in your face suddenly open on their own. And the same ones who tried to block your light, they're now sitting in the dark, wondering how you keep glowing. But they don't know the cost. They don't know what it took to carry this calling. They see the shine, but never the scars. They want your grace, but not your grit. Your crown, but not your cross. You were never just lucky. You were aligned. And when the universe backs you, it doesn't matter who doubts you, mocks you, or walks away. The chosen don't chase. They attract. They don't beg. They become. And everything you've been through, every betrayal, every loss, every night you questioned if it was worth it, was part of the design. Because when the universe chooses you, it doesn't give you ease. It gives you fire. And it trusts you to carry that fire through places most people would burn in. So let them gossip. Let them misunderstand. Let them wish they were you. Because what they hate most isn't what you have. It's who you had to become to carry it. They don't want your truth. They want your results. But without your sacrifice, your silence, your sleepless nights, your lonely breakthroughs, you are not for everyone. And that's not arrogance. That's accuracy. You're not here to be liked by everyone. You're here to be a light for the right ones. They all want you. But they'll never hold you, because you weren't built to be contained. You were built to change the game, to bend reality, to break the cycles they're still dancing in. So walk with your head high, chosen one. You're not intimidating, they're just insecure. You're not too real, they're just too fake. And you're not too much. They were simply never enough to handle someone like you. Number 3. You don't trigger people, you wake the ghosts they tried to bury. Your existence is a confrontation, not because you try, but because they've been hiding from the version of themselves that looks like you. Chosen one, let's get one thing straight. You don't have to say a single word to make people uncomfortable. Your presence does that for you. You walk into a room and suddenly the atmosphere shifts. Not because you're loud or arrogant, but because your energy holds truth. And truth doesn't whisper, it exposes. You are a walking spotlight in a world full of shadows. And when light shows up, it doesn't negotiate with the dark, it reveals it. You don't trigger people. You trigger what they've been trying to suppress, their fear, their insecurities, their unresolved trauma. All of it comes rushing to the surface the moment they feel your frequency. You don't even have to look in their direction. Just your being, your energy, your calm, your clarity forces their masks to slip. People call you too intense because they've never been in the presence of someone who doesn't need to perform. You're the opposite of superficial. You don't play roles, you don't adapt to fit in, and you damn sure don't water yourself down for comfort. You just exist. And that kind of existence, it's disruptive to people who've built their identities around pretending. You make them feel like something's wrong, but they can't explain why. So they give it a label. They say you're arrogant, cold, unapproachable, too deep. But what they're really saying is, I see in you a version of myself I'm scared to become. You are a mirror, and not the kind that flatters, not the kind that smooths out wrinkles and hides blemishes. You're the kind of mirror that shows the truth. And most people, they've been running from that reflection for a long, long time. The crazy part, you never asked to be this. You never tried to be a mirror. You were just being real, living in your truth, healing, growing, elevating. But your elevation threatened the version of themselves they were still pretending to love. Because here's what they'll never say out loud. You are proof that their excuses don't work anymore. You are proof that they could have healed, that they could have leveled up, that they could have faced themselves, but they chose comfort instead. And now, standing next to you, all they feel is the weight of what they never became. Chosen ones, they aren't mad at you. They're mad at what you activate. You are the trigger, but not the wound. Don't ever confuse the two. They blame you because it's easier than facing the fact that you're not the reason they're in pain. They are. You didn't cause their hurt. You just held up a mirror they couldn't avoid, and so they lash out. Not because you did anything wrong, but because for the first time in their lives, they felt seen, and it terrified them. They'll say, you think you're better than everyone else, but what they mean is, you're not pretending like us, and that makes us feel exposed. They'll say you're too much, but what they mean is, you feel like truth, and I've been lying to myself for years. It's not your job to dim your light so others can sit in their comfort. It's not your job to shrink your soul so someone else can feel safe in their smallness. The universe didn't choose you to babysit broken egos. It chose you to shake the system, to awaken the sleeping, to remind people of who they really are, even if they hate you for it. And yes, it's lonely. Yes, it hurts when people you thought would support you suddenly switch up. But let them fall away. You're not losing people. You're shedding layers. And with every layer, your light gets stronger, clearer, undeniable. Let this be a wake-up call to every chosen one still doubting their power. Stop asking why people are uncomfortable around you. Start asking why you ever thought it was your job to make them feel comfortable in the first place. You were chosen because you carry the kind of light that doesn't lie, the kind of presence that doesn't play games, the kind of truth that rattles cages. They were never fighting you. They were fighting the parts of themselves they couldn't face. They were fighting the reflection you showed them. They were fighting the version of themselves that still wants to be free. But that's not your weight to carry. Your only job is to keep showing up as who you are, fully, loudly, unapologetically, because every time you do, the universe moves, aligns, protects, it clears out the fake, and it draws in the real. So if they get triggered, let them. If they walk away, let them. You're not for everyone, and that's not a problem, that's proof. Because the ones who are meant for you, they won't be triggered by your light. They'll be ignited by it. Number 4, you're the walking proof. They could have healed, and that's why they resent you. You did the work they were too scared to start. Now your peace feels like a slap to their excuses. Let's cut straight through the noise. Your existence exposes their laziness, not physical laziness, but emotional cowardice. You're the proof that healing is real, that growth is possible, that peace can be earned. And that's exactly why your presence hits them like a punch to the gut. They admire your strength now. They compliment your energy, your wisdom, your clarity. But here's what they conveniently forget. You paid for all of that. With sleepless nights, with silent suffering, with tear-stained pillows and battles, you fought with no one clapping for you. You bled privately to carry the peace you now wear publicly, and they hate you for how easy it looks. But it's not easy. You just make survival look graceful. See, it's not your peace that offends them. It's the reminder of what they refuse to pursue. They had the same chance to face their demons, to confront their childhood wounds, to untangle the lies they told themselves to feel safe. But they chose distraction over discipline, pleasure over purpose, ego over evolution. And now they sit on the sidelines of your growth, trying to rewrite the story to make themselves feel better. They changed. They think they're better. They're so distant now. No, you healed. You outgrew the version of yourself that tolerated dysfunction and called it loyalty. You walked through fire while they played victim in the ashes. And the moment you stood up and said, "This cycle ends with me," you became a threat, not just to them, but to everything they used to justify staying broken. You want to know why your presence makes them twitch? why they side-eye your silence or talk about your spiritual phase like it's a trend. It's because healing isn't quiet, it's not invisible, it radiates. And you, chosen one, you radiate responsibility. You walk like someone who's faced every dark version of themselves and didn't flinch. That kind of energy makes people uncomfortable, not because you're judging them, but because they're finally judging themselves. And the worst part for them, you never once tried to prove a thing. You didn't throw your growth in their face. You didn't beg them to evolve with you. You simply rose, and in doing so, you exposed the fact that they chose to stay stuck. You see, they were cool with you when you were broken, when you were dependent, when you shared the same misery, the same trauma language, the same emotional avoidance. But healing changed your vocabulary. You stopped entertaining dysfunction. You stopped laughing at what wasn't funny. You stopped shrinking to make others feel tall. And that's when the silence started. That's when the support disappeared. Not because you wronged anyone, but because your healing convicted them. They praise your glow, but they hate your grind. They admire your strength, but they despise your scars. They love the peace you carry, but they resent what it took to earn it. Because deep down, they know the truth. You didn't get lucky. You didn't get saved. You got serious. You stopped pointing fingers. You stopped waiting for an apology that would never come. You stopped clinging to comfort and started embracing accountability. And now you walk with power. Not the loud kind, not the kind that demands attention, but the quiet, unshakable kind, the kind that can't be faked. And that's what really bothers them, because your peace tells the world you could have had this too. But they didn't want it bad enough. They'll twist your journey into something else to avoid responsibility. They'll call you cold for setting boundaries. They'll call you fake for not explaining your silence. But deep down, they know the truth. You made a choice they were too scared to make. You did the work they were too lazy to do. And now the gap between you isn't just emotional, it's energetic. They can't meet you where you are because they never left where you were. So don't apologize. Don't water down the very healing you bled for just to make someone else feel comfortable in their suffering. You weren't chosen to make people feel safe in their stuckness. You were chosen to show what's possible. Your life now is a mirror to their excuses. Your peace is a reflection of what they could have claimed. Your growth is the evidence they tried to pretend didn't exist. Let them watch. Let them whisper. Let them twist the story. Because at the end of the day, you are the proof. Healing isn't just for the lucky, it's for the willing. And they just weren't. Number 5, they want the fruit, but they vanished when you were just a seed. They'll cheer your harvest like they helped sow the soil. But where were they when it was just dirt and darkness? Let's make one thing clear. Your success didn't come out of nowhere. Your growth wasn't magic. It was war, silent war, private war, a war you fought when no one showed up. Not to check on you, not to encourage you, not to help you water what the universe planted inside of you. They disappeared during the drought, but now they want to dance in the rain. Chosen one, they didn't show up when you were breaking. When your soul was stretched so thin, it felt like breathing was a task. They were missing during the quiet seasons, the ones where you questioned everything, where the silence was loud, and the only answer you had was, keep going. You were the seed, buried in pain, buried in confusion, buried in isolation, and no one clapped for your potential then. But now that you're blooming, now that the light has found you, they've suddenly remembered your name. Now they're reposting you, praising you, claiming you, acting like they were there when your roots were breaking through rock just to breathe. They weren't. They didn't sit with you through the nights you cried yourself to sleep. They didn't wipe your tears or speak life into you when you were surrounded by death, emotional, mental. spiritual. They didn't see the decisions you had to make in silence, the sacrifices, the losses, the lonely days where you gave everything and got nothing but silence in return. But now they want access. Now they want the fruit. They want to eat what they never helped grow. They want to taste your peace, drink your wisdom, stand under the shade of your tree, like they had a hand in the planting. And here's the most disrespectful part. They act like they were there the whole time. But don't be fooled. Presence in your glow means nothing if they were absent in your grind. You are no longer that version of yourself who gave everything away just to feel loved, just to feel accepted, just to not be left behind. That version of you died somewhere in the dark. And what rose in its place? Unapologetic discernment. Your fruit is not free. Your energy is not cheap. Your story is not for clout. You didn't water your soul for years just to hand your harvest to people who disappeared when things got real. You didn't cry, fast, isolate, bleed and break only to let someone else waltz in and take credit for what you carried alone. Some of them only want to be near you now because the light on you validates the darkness in them. They think being close to your fire means they don't have to kindle their own. But the glow-up doesn't work like that. You can't skip the roots and expect the fruit to be yours. And let's be honest, some of them liked you better when you were in survival mode. You were easier to control, easier to manipulate, easier to use. You didn't have boundaries back then. You were still trying to be liked, still trying to prove yourself, still handing out pieces of your soul like samples in a supermarket, hoping someone would see your value. But not anymore. You're not desperate anymore. You're not starving for validation anymore. You're not giving access to people just because they knew you when. Knowing the old you doesn't qualify them for the evolved you. Being around doesn't mean they showed up. Witnessing your bloom doesn't make them part of your journey. You don't owe anyone a piece of what you earned just because they remembered you once the fruit showed. And the more you elevate, the more you'll see. People want the benefits of your obedience without paying the price of their own. Let them watch. Let them clap from the sidelines. Let them post you like a trophy they helped build. The universe saw everything. It recorded every moment they overlooked you, and it also saw the nights you stayed true, even when no one noticed. That's why the blessing came, not because you were lucky, but because you were faithful, because you watered the seed when no one else believed it would grow, because you kept going when quitting was easier, because you listened when the universe whispered, "This is your path," even if it's lonely. So no, they don't get to skip the soil and claim the bloom. They don't get to share the stage when they left you at the door. They don't get to enjoy the tree when they refuse to plant even a single root with you. You are the garden now, and access to you is earned, not owed. Number 6, you're not a personality. You're a frequency they can't survive. You're not hard to understand. You're just vibrating on a level they can't reach without killing the version of themselves they're addicted to. Let's break it wide open. You were never just a person walking through their life. You were a frequency moving through their delusion, a disruption, a spiritual voltage that shook every lie they were hiding behind. You don't just enter a room, you recode it. You don't speak to people's ears, you speak to their souls. And that's why they twitch when you talk, flinch when you're silent, and disappear when things get deep. You are not someone people just hang around. You are an experience, an atmosphere, a force. And when you show up, illusions fall like broken glass. Fake smiles fade, false confidence collapses, masks melt. Why? Because your frequency doesn't lie, it doesn't perform, it doesn't flatter. It demands truth, and truth is violent to the ego. Most people can't handle that bandwidth. They can't handle someone who doesn't need the room to validate them. They can't process someone who lives without pretending. They can't survive the signal you carry, because to match it, they'd have to unlearn everything they built their identity on. They say you're too intense, but what they mean is, you make me question everything I pretend to be. They say you think too deep, but what they mean is, your presence makes my shallow life feel exposed. They say you're hard to be around, but the truth is, you're hard to lie around. You're not here to dim your light so they can keep living in the dark. You're not here to lower your vibration so people who refuse to grow can feel safe around you. You weren't chosen to fit in, you were chosen to fracture illusions, to make the ground shake beneath anything built on falsehood. And yes, it's lonely, because not everyone can breathe at your altitude. You're not built for small talk and surface-level souls. You're built for impact, for change, for legacy, and that requires space, because when your energy is that loud, only the real can stand close. Chosen ones, you are not just a personality. You're a frequency that only the aligned can hear, a signal that only the awake can understand, a vibration that makes liars run and truth seekers rise. So if they fall off, let them. If they don't understand you, good. You weren't sent to be understood. You were sent to wake the sleeping, to break the loop, to remind people of what they could be if they were just brave enough to let the false version of themselves die. Number 7. They wanted a mirror that lied, but you reflected the truth they couldn't run from. You weren't hard to love, they just weren't ready to face themselves. Let's call it what it is. Most people don't want truth. They want a reflection that flatters their fantasy. They want a mirror that lies, one that tells them they're healed when they're still bleeding, one that praises their ego while ignoring the wreckage they refuse to clean up. But you're not that mirror. You're the kind of reflection that shows the raw, the unfiltered, the ugly. You don't sugarcoat. You don't soften the edges just to keep the peace. You show people who they really are, not who they pretend to be. And that kind of honesty? It's like acid to their comfort. You weren't made to play therapist to broken egos or stroke delusions into security. You were built to wake people up, to rattle cages, to bring light into rooms that got too comfortable with darkness. You're not the compliment they're fishing for. You're the consequence of living a lie for too long. That's why they say you're too harsh. That's why they call you difficult, judgmental, or negative. Not because you're wrong, but because you didn't hand-feed them the illusion they're addicted to. You don't bring comfort, you bring confrontation. And confrontation feels like an attack when someone has built their whole identity on running from the truth. Here's the thing, the truth doesn't always feel good. It feels like tension, it feels like pressure, it feels like exposure, but it heals. And that's what you are, healing in human form. Not the soft kind, the kind that cuts before it cures, the kind that burns before it builds, the kind that demands transformation. They don't hate you, they hate the version of themselves that only shows up in your presence. Because your energy pulls their truth out like a spotlight in a dark room, and not everyone's ready to see what's been hiding in their shadows. But that's not your problem. You weren't chosen to babysit delusions. You were chosen to ignite evolution. You are the spark, the shift, the breaking point. And even when they resist you, deep down they know you're exactly what they need. So no, you won't be the soft mirror that flatters their false identity. You'll be the sharp one, the one that stings, because that sting, that's the start of freedom. Number 8, you're their online persona in real life, and that's why they can't stand you. They post who they wish they were. You wake up and are it. Let's get something straight. What they fake online, you embody in real life. They rehearse authenticity like it's a role. You live it like it's blood in your veins. No edits, no filters, no branding, just truth. And that's exactly why you make people uneasy without even trying. You're not some curated persona built for likes and applause. You don't need a filter to shine. You don't need captions to sound deep. You are the caption. You are the message. You are the truth they spend hours trying to look like, without ever doing the work to become. That's why they copy your words, but can't carry your energy. That's why they mimic your moves, but fall apart when faced with your silence. That's why they steal your light, but burn out trying to hold it. Because you can't fake real. You can screenshot someone's style, but you can't screenshot their substance. And that's what they're mad about, your substance. They scroll through feeds building an identity they think the world will love. But you walk through life with nothing to prove. Your self-worth isn't tied to attention. You didn't heal just to post about it. You healed to live, to breathe, to be. And that scares people because they know they're only playing dress-up in a life you actually earned. You don't hide your scars to keep up appearances. You wear them like armor, and the confidence you carry, it didn't come from clout. It came from cost. Nights you cried, moments you doubted, times you stood alone. You didn't learn authenticity from books or quotes. You learned it from pain. You are what they wish they could become if they ever stopped pretending. You are what their captions hint at, but their character can't hold. You're the life beyond the algorithm, the one built in silence, not spotlight. So when they look at you and get quiet, don't take it personally. They're not ignoring you. They're calculating. They're studying. They're trying to figure out how someone could live so loudly without performing. Here's the truth. They don't envy your platform. They envy your peace. They envy your ability to wake up and be yourself without needing the world to clap for it. And the scariest part for them, you didn't fake your glow. You earned it. Number 9. They want your light, but they can't handle the lock on the door. They love your glow until they realize it comes with a gate. Let's be real. They don't want you. They want the feeling they get from you. Your presence is a high they didn't have to earn. Your light makes them feel seen. Your energy lifts their soul. But the second you draw a line, the illusion shatters. Suddenly, you're cold. Suddenly, you're distant. Suddenly, you switched up. No, what really happened is you stopped letting them feed off you for free. Chosen ones, your energy is not common, it's not cheap, and it's not owed. But they treated you like a never-ending power source, like a spiritual buffet where they could come back for seconds, thirds, and still leave without paying respect. And when you finally locked the doors, they didn't get mad because you were unavailable. They got mad because they could no longer access what they were never grateful for in the first place. You weren't rejecting people, you were rejecting the misuse of your spirit. Your boundaries are not walls, they're filters. They separate the takers from the builders, the users from the believers, the curious from the committed. You had to learn that not everyone deserves your presence just because they enjoy your energy. Some people only want you when you're leaking light. When your guard is down, your soul is tired, and your yes is automatic. But boundaries force people to either step up or step out. And when they step out, don't chase. That's not a loss, that's alignment. You're not a free spirit for hire. You're not a healing station for broken egos. You're sacred land. And not everyone is meant to walk here. Some are meant to observe from a distance, because your soul is rich, and rich soil doesn't open itself up to be trampled on. They were never offended by your light. They were offended that they couldn't own it. that they couldn't drain it, that it didn't bend for them. You gave too much before. Let's be honest about that. You were open, available, overextending, always pouring, hoping someone would see your heart and protect it. But all they saw was access, and they mistook it for entitlement. Now you've changed. You've grown. You've locked the gates and planted signs that read, "Sacred, entry by invitation only." Because when you're truly chosen, your energy becomes currency, and spiritual currency isn't for sale at every corner store of convenience. Let them call you what they want, just don't let them back in. Number 10, you weren't built for the masses, you were sent for the ones who can actually handle the signal. You're not here to please the crowd. You're here to wake the few who are ready to burn their old selves and rise. Stop trying to be understood by everyone. You weren't made for everyone. You were calibrated for the remnant, the rare, the raw, the ready, not the majority chasing comfort, trends, or approval. You were sent for those who feel your words in their bones, the ones who don't need an explanation, because they are the explanation. Chosen one, your frequency isn't broadcast on every channel. You don't vibe with average. You don't resonate with shallow. You weren't placed here to entertain or be accepted by the crowd. The crowd doesn't awaken. The crowd conforms. And you were born to confront, to awaken, to break patterns, not join them. And yes, that means isolation. That means rejection. That means long stretches where you wonder, why am I always the one who sees what others ignore? Because you're not sent for everyone. You're sent for the ones who are ready to see. The misfits, the rebels, the wounded warriors, the ones who are climbing out of the same pit you crawled out of, searching for someone who knows the way. And when you speak, they rise. Not because your words are pretty, but because your spirit reminds them of their own. You're not everything to everyone, and that's not a flaw. That's your assignment. You're not here to please the masses. You're here to activate the hidden ones, the ones who've been silenced, buried, dismissed, and lied to. The ones who almost gave up until your energy sparked something ancient inside them. That's why your message doesn't always go viral. That's why some people scroll past you without hearing a thing. Because your words weren't made for the distracted. They were made for the awakened. And when your frequency reaches the right ears, it doesn't entertain, it ignites. You don't inspire from the surface. You break chains from the inside. And the ones you're sent to, they don't just listen, they remember. So stop trying to soften your truth for people who were never assigned to you. Stop watering down your fire so lukewarm souls can feel warm. You weren't chosen to be liked. You were chosen to light the match that burns the illusion to the ground. You're not for everyone. You never were. But to the remnant, you're everything they didn't know they were waiting for. And now, if you've made it this far, it's no accident. That pull you felt, that fire rising in your chest, that's confirmation. You're not just watching a message, you're remembering who you are. You are chosen. You were never meant to fit in because you were sent to stand out. Let the rest keep guessing. The real ones already know. If this spoke to your spirit, like this video, subscribe and drop the number 77 in the comments to let the universe know you're awake. Share this with another chosen one who needs to hear it. Their time is now.